Hey y'all, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So I'm just gonna jump right in it because I know I've missed like a week or two, probably longer than a week, but I've missed uploading. I haven't uploaded in I'm gonna say like 2 weeks. So I'm gonna jump right into it. Today I want to talk about my perspective on religion. And I want to say that, so what sparked this conversation, this discussion that I want to have, or, just me wanting to talk about this, is, as you all know, I consider myself Muslim. I do not consider myself practicing because, well, let's talk about it. Okay? So, I do consider myself Muslim. I have I took my Shahada about, I want to say maybe 4 years ago now. I think I took it in like 2021 or 2022, September of 2021. Yes, is when I took my Shahada. So that's when I converted to Islam. And I still consider myself a Muslim because I do believe in that revelation. I do believe that what was revealed by God then is truth. So that's why I still consider myself Muslim. I consider myself like a non-practicing Muslim, because I'm not practicing that way of truth. You know what I mean? Like I'm not doing the things that I know is truth, but I don't, I'm not doing it. And if you're Muslim, you know what that means. If you're not Muslim, you probably know what that means. Like you're not practicing. But it's kind of weird. And that's what the conversation is for today, because I have a lot of principles that I've learned from Islam. But as you all know, I also, I grew up on Christianity. And so I have a lot of principles from Christianity that I still live by today. And I've realized that putting them both together has really created like a harmonious relationship with God for me. It's really worked out for me. I have a lot of peace. I have a good relationship with God. I have steady and consistent worships with God. And so I want to talk about it because I feel like there are a lot of people who probably don't like religion. I know a lot of people who don't like the sense of like religion in a traditional sense because, it just doesn't work for them for whatever reasons. And that's with Islam or Christianity. I know both sides, people from both sides, and neither one of it works for them. So then my question is, well, and honestly, it's not my question for the people. Well, sometimes I ask people this, but it's also a question to God. And I'm just like, well, how do people relationship with you or find you if they don't find you in those ways? And, something that I feel God, said back to me was, it's going to be in their heart. They'll know because I'm going to put it in their heart. And then from there, I'll guide them to whatever way is correct for them. So with that being said, I do want to state that I have an understanding that God's ways are not our ways. God's understanding is higher than our understanding. And so with this journey that I'm on of following God, because I've always been a believer in God, but it wasn't until recently that I've learned how to actually walk with God and follow God. So within that journey, I've learned how to follow God in a way that works for me. And that's what I want to talk about today. How to follow God in a way that works for you. Because at the end of the day, regardless of what religion you want to choose, or if you even want to choose to be religious at all, we need to follow God. It brings peace. It brings so much balance to your life. Trust me when I tell you, it brings peace and balance, and the confusion just dies down when you are following God. So I want to talk about my journey and why. Well, first I want to start off by talking about because my mom asked me this question the other day, and she's like, you know, are you, mind you, I'm the only Muslim in my family. So let's start by that. And when I converted to Islam, my family, they all accept, you know, they were all like, I'm from Philly. Philly got a lot of Muslims, so it's like we kind of already, that's not really a surprise to us, you know. So a lot of them, most of them were happy for me that I, you know, I was seeking God. That's all we care about. We grew up on foundation of God. As long as you seeking God, cool. However you want to do it. I do feel like some of my family, like my non-Philadelphia family, they were a little like, man, girl, but they were still respectful. So it was easy transition for me. Now, why I stopped practicing? So I took my Shahada in 2021, and it is now 2025. And I was on Deen. So for those of you who aren't Muslim or who don't know, on Deen means when you are like doing what you're supposed to be doing according to the Quran and like the Hadith, which is like the revelations that were revealed to, well, more so the Hadith is just like what Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, like how he, like his guidance basically, you know. And if you're Muslim and that's not right, please comment and let me know like how to articulate that better, please and thank you. So yeah, so I was on Deen for about, I would say a good 3 years, and I'll just explain some of the things when I say I was on Deen. So, you know, I garbed up. So like, you know, in Islam, we believe that, you know, you should be covered, you know, because one, it's a protection. It keeps you protected from just unwanted things. It keeps others protected from lustful desires and things like that. And I also believe, and I don't know if this is true, but it kept me protected as in other Muslims knew, okay, she's Muslim. And, you know, I always looked at it as like, listen, if something go down, the Muslims is going to come save me. Like the men are going to protect me because they're going to know that I'm Muslim. So I always felt protected. And I'm not even gonna lie, I felt like even when I walked the streets, when I was garbed up, I got a different level of respect. Or I wasn't afraid to maybe like walk somewhere when I'm garbed up, because I feel like people, they kind of think twice. Like, oh, all right, I'm gonna leave that one alone. Listen, I felt like I was covered in multiple ways. Like I was covered physically, but also spiritually. Like God had me. And I'm not to say that people who are not covered, God didn't have them, but for me, that's how I felt. And like I said, I always believe that it's all about, you know, what's in your heart. Like God puts in your heart what is for you. And I don't know if I said this already, but I go by God's ways are not our ways. God's understanding is higher than our understanding. So, you know, there will be time, I know people who will not agree with what I'm saying. And it's like, well, one time I heard someone say, it's other YouTubers, I heard them say like, God is multidimensional. So because God is multidimensional, why would he only have one way for us to seek him or to relationship with him? Kind of like God is multidimensional. So he's going to make sure that we get to him however we need to, you know. I digress with that. But anyway, so yeah, so I was praying 5 times a day. I was praying more than 5 times a day because, you know, there's extra prayers you could do, but the obligatory prayers are the 5 prayers. I was praying 5 times a day. I was garbed up. I was going to class. I was studying. I was learning. I was on Deen, you know, I was Deening. And that was for about 3 years. And I'm gonna say most recently within this year is when it just started to feel like it just wasn't right. And I struggled with it. Not that it wasn't right, because I want to make that clear. I believe that Islam is a great way to start seeking God, and just because I feel like Islam teaches you structure and discipline, and it helps you to quiet your mind so that you can now find relationship with God. So anyway, yeah, so I was struggling. The first things that happened, I think it might have happened together. I was struggling to pray 5 times a day. Like I was struggling to pray any times a day. And it wasn't that I was lazy. And I mean, I would cry to God about this because I felt so bad. Because I'm like, am I just lazy? Like, what is it? But I would feel sick to my stomach when it came time to pray. It was just hard. It just got out of nowhere. It just got hard for me. And it just got like, not hard in the sense of like I said, not lazy, but it got to a point where it was like, yo, I feel sick to my stomach even doing this. And after talking to myself, all I do is talk to God all day long. I think I told y'all that in previous videos. So after having conversation with God, you know, I feel like what was the problem was that I was doing things that I was supposed to be doing. Like I was doing the movements, but I wasn't connected to it. You know, we have to, when you pray, it has to be, when you make salat, because there's a difference. You can make dua, which is just talking to God. But when you make salat, it has to be in Arabic. And when I said my prayers, when I was making salat, I know the translation, but when you're saying it still, it was just coming out. And it was just like, I was just doing it constantly, day after day, with no real connection. And even with me personally, and everyone's not like this, with me saying the words in Arabic, even knowing what they translate to, it still didn't feel like I was connected to those words. So for me, it became like, I'm just doing this. And there's nothing wrong with that, because I believe that, you know, worshiping God, even if it's just you doing it, that's alhamdulillah, like that's good. You should worship God always. But I wanted to feel that connectedness to God. And I no longer felt that connectedness when I was doing these things. And so, you know, I cried about this. I prayed about it. And I know people will disagree with me on this, but I do believe that God put it in my heart that it was okay for me to find another way to pray to God. I believe that God put that in my heart. Also, when it came to garbing, like I didn't want to garb anymore. I didn't want to wear, you know, the clothes, and I felt terrible about that, because like I said, I do believe and I understand why that is a thing. Garbing, like I understand it. Dressing modestly, you know, it has all, like that's in the Bible and in the Torah, to my understanding, and in the Quran. It's like, so it's, when I think about those 3 things, I know that that's one of God's principles, to dress modestly. And when I think about how God would want that, however is best for you, however works best for you, it just needs to be modestly. So now, for instance, I don't garb anymore, and who knows if I'll go back to it. You know what I mean? Allahu A'lam. Allah knows best. God knows best. But I don't. I still dress modestly. So I'm gonna give you an example, and this is why I love Islam, because, and I don't know if I've ever said this analogy before, but it's like, Islam is like the top. It's like the highest you can get of behavior. This is how you behave, okay? And I feel like God made it that way. Like, this is the creme de la creme. This is how you should behave. And God knows we're not perfect. So God knows that we might, you know, go a little bit down. But even if we go a little bit down, we're still here, which means we're still good. So I don't dress, I don't garb anymore, but I still dress modestly. I went to a basketball game the other, like a few weekends ago, and I thought about wearing shorts, and then I'm like, no, I can't wear shorts. Shorts are for the beach maybe, or something like that, but I can't wear shorts to like a basketball game because it's inappropriate. You know what I mean? So I still have that mindset of being modest. So yeah, I feel like it's levels to how God, you know, how you can relationship with God, even when it comes to men. I used to be the type of person who had like a lot of male friends, and you know, just had like male friends, you know, but Islam taught me that it's not okay to, like, that's not something you need to be doing, having male friends. And I agree with that. So now I don't have male friends. You know, I can say hi, I can have conversation while I'm at work, and stuff like that. But like, as far as exchanging numbers and hanging out, I'm not doing that. Like, I'm not hanging out unless we're in a, maybe, and even still, that's a maybe if we're in a group, maybe a bunch of coworkers. But other than that, like, we're not. I think that's inappropriate now. So, like I said, God will find different ways to get you to relationship with God. Also with prayer, because this was really big. So I want to go back to the prayer. So it was hard for me to make salat, but I recognized I still had to, what does the Bible say? I think it says something like pray without ceasing. So consistently pray. And in Islam, you pray 5 times a day. And I had to ask myself, how can I still be always in remembrance of God without, in a way that works for me? So, then I would go to the Christian side of how I was brought up, because I started, like, that was just in my opinion, and this is all my opinion, I love the way Christians' relationship with God. Christianity, in my opinion, teaches you how to relationship with God, and Islam teaches you how to worship God and how to behave. And when you put the two together, I'm telling you, and I know some of you are going to be like, no, that's not the way to do it. Listen, for those of you who are having a hard time with choosing religion and stuff like that, don't knock this till you try it. I'm telling you, like, those 2 ways, it gave me balance. So I get on a prayer call every morning. One of my best friends, she is Christian, and she's always talking about God, because one thing, when you believe in God and when you following God, baby, God is God, it doesn't matter the religion. We gonna talk about God, we gonna worship God, and that's it, because glory be to God. So she, the church that she goes to, awesome church. I haven't been, but just from what I can see from her and her family and the things that she tells me, and I do watch some of the sermons or whatever online, but they have like a prayer call every morning at 6:30 in the morning. So now I make sure to get on that prayer call every morning, because they pray in a way that works for me. And I'm not even gonna lie, sometimes I don't want to. I'm tired. I'm like, I don't want to get on a prayer call. But more so, what I don't want to do is start my day without God. And because I'm not making Fajr anymore, which is like the first prayer for the Muslims, so because I'm not making Fajr anymore, I still need to start my day in prayer to God. So I get on the prayer call at 6:30, and they just pray, and they pray. And my goal is to be able to learn how to pray like that, pray without ceasing, and to learn how to what to pray for, how to pray for others, because I do feel like there's a skill in that. Like, that's something you have to learn how to do, especially coming from a background of not really knowing how to pray. You just talk to God. Sometimes our tears, but I want to get to the point where I'm speaking and praying like an intercessor, almost like I'm praying on behalf of other people who can't pray for themselves, who don't know how to pray. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but I work with at-risk teens, and I pray for them constantly. And it's important to me that I know exactly what I'm speaking over their life for, what I'm going to God about for their life specifically. Sometimes I'll just, just like, God, please, such and such, and say their name. But sometimes I want to say, God, guide them, God, bring them comfort, and run down the whole list, so that even I know God knows all, but I just want to, be very, very clear on my prayers to God. So yeah, I'm learning how to pray. And getting on that prayer call at 6:30 in the morning, not only is it teaching me how to pray, it's helping me to start my day in prayer, start my day in a positive, good mindset, and then starting my day in worshiping God. And when I tell you, baby, God guides me all throughout the day. One thing I want to throw out there is since I started following God, I have not had a bad day. I have not had a bad day since I started intentionally following God. Now, I've had days that should have been bad, or like, had I not been following God, I probably would have broke down, cried, and all types of, why are you doing this? It would have been all of that. But I still had a peace, even with all of, whatever was going on, it still was a peace, because I will always stop and pray. I'm always talking to God. God, I don't know what you're doing. Da-da. And God literally has kept me through all the things. So since I started following God, I have not had a bad day or a breakful day. Y'all know what I'm talking about. A day that I felt like I'm about to break. And if I ever did feel like, God, this is too much, I would say, God, just feel like it's too much. Come on now. Come on now. And I'm not lying. I would feel at peace again. Like God would do something to help, give me that up. So I would either, and that's something else, I would maybe ask God. I'm like, God, I need a little bit of comfort. I need a little bit of reassurance. I need a little bit of relief. That's been a word that I've really been talking to God about. I need some relief, God. And God has been giving it all to me. God has been giving it all to me. I do believe, you know how some people, they be like, God is my father. And I know they mean that in a spiritual way, but when you don't grow up, like with certain, like parental guidance and stuff, God literally shows up for me, like literally like as if he was my father. And I'm talking about literally providing for me. Providing. Like, it's been times where I'm like, God, I don't know how I'm gonna make this work. Next thing I know, God made it work. God has showed up as my friend. God has showed up to me as, this is gonna sound so weird, y'all, so please, like, come on. God has showed up as a husband. And I like, once again, I don't know if I mentioned this in my other videos, but I'm at a time in my life where I'm learning how to become a wife. So I'm, praying for a husband, but God is molding me and teaching me how to become a wife. And with that, God has been showing me through what God does for me, what a husband is supposed to be like. God is so good, alhamdulillah for that. God is so good. So, just little things change, like big things change in your life when you really start following God. And when you follow God and seek God and ask God to guide me in a way that works for me. That is what your prayer should be. If you're a person who is seeking God and you don't know where to start and you're like, oh, religion ain't for me, religion isn't for me, ask God to guide you to something that is for you. And like I said, don't be afraid to try, especially when you get to the end of your ropes and you like, listen, I can't do this no more. Because I had a major like breakthrough, like not breakthrough, crash out moment, I'm gonna say. Major crash out moment. And it was like, I was like, God, I need something. And God guided me to Islam. And that saved my life. It saved my life. I needed that. I needed that structure. I needed that guidance. I needed that. And it was funny because now I'm thinking about it. I feel like for me, God had to get me to a place where I could relationship with him. And I think Islam did that for me because it quieted all the noise. I had to stop drinking. I know I said this before, but I had to stop drinking. I had to, all the rules that Islam gives you is literally to save your life. And it helps me after that to quiet all the noise and to, not try to replace things with other things. Like it gave me good habits, and with those good habits I was able to now connect with God and have relationship with God. So it was just so good. And now I'm at the point in my life I do feel like I have balance and I know which way, and I'm still on the journey. So it's 2025 and you might see me like this, but 2027, because I'm continuously seeking God and learning God and asking God to guide me and move in my life. So, God might put more things in my heart, more ways of being that he wants me to do or be, and who knows. But what I will say to anyone out there who is having trouble seeking God, hearing from God, I really just want you to just ask God to guide you. And honestly, baby steps, and you have to listen to God. I told y'all about the story about the time that God told me I need to stop drinking alcohol for 40 days. 40 days. So you're God might tell you you got to do something. You might have to leave that person alone, you know, that man or woman alone. You might have to move somewhere. You have to, you have to quiet the noise. And then I do believe before you have your crash out moment, because when you crash out, it's oof. I believe that God will try to guide you before it gets to that place of crashing out. But you got to get there. You got to get there, you know. So I had to get to the place. I've had moments where God was, you know, trying to, but over the years, I never stuck with it. You know, I never stuck with it. So God would guide me and I would seek God, and then I'd be all right. And then I'd be like, all right, God, see you later. I told y'all this. It's the truth. And now I'm at a point where it's like, all right, I'm not doing that no more. I'm just going to stay on the path of seeking God and walking with God and following God, being obedient. And that's what following God to me means, being obedient. So when God puts something in your spirit, in your soul, in your heart, and you really feel like, dang, I need to stop doing that thing. Stop doing it, because that might be God saying, okay, you're asking to seek me. Well, this is what I need you to do. And if you're serious about it, I need you to do this. And once you do that, that's the journey to actually following God. And like I said, this goes out to believers of God. It's people right now that are at, you know, their places of worship who still do not follow God. They're just believing in God. So I suggest that, you know, if this touches your heart, because I do believe God, you know, God gonna do what God gonna do in the way that God gonna do it for you. If this touches your heart, try to give up, like say a prayer, talk to God, and then try to quiet your mind to listen to see what God wants you to do so that you can better seek God. Thank y'all for listening to my spiel. Is that the word? That's the word. All right, so that's that. And I'm going to try to be more consistent with my videos. So hopefully after this one, you'll be getting another one in a few days. But until then, I'm going to try something new. Stay blessed up. All right, y'all.